Okay, so now we're moving on to the last part of our notes. So for this one, I need you guys to make sure that you're focusing on pronoun and antecedent agreement right here in the middle of the back. And then also intensive and reflexive pronouns. Okay, your paper just says intensive pronouns. I need you to add what I wrote right here. Reflexive and right above intensive. Okay, so when you read it later, you'll know that that means reflexive and intensive pronouns. Okay, and then I also would like for you, and you can do this with me right now, to, oops, I meant to get black. Maybe, here we go, pen, and then black. I need you to draw up like a line towards the middle, and on the top line, write reflexive, and at the bottom, I'm just going to write re. You should probably write reflexive, but I don't have my tablet right now. So reflexive and intensive. Reflexive will be at the top, intensive will be at the bottom. So when your notes look like this, you're ready to move on. Go ahead and press pause while you're writing. And also remember that you need to have your grade charts out, and we will fill these out together in just a second. We'll be using the back. Okay, so reflexive and intensive pronouns. These are the ones we have not talked about all year, but they're pretty easy once you get them. Okay, so reflexive and intensive, they're very, very similar. All right, both of them end in either self for singular or selves for plural. Example, myself, ourselves. I would definitely write this down, that both end in either self or selves for both of them. You can just write end in self/selves and then both areas of your notes. Okay? All right, so here is the list of them. I turns to myself, you turns to yourself, he, himself, she, herself, it, itself, we, ourselves, you, yourselves, they, themselves. So let's go to our gray chart paper. And reflexive and intensive are the same. So what you're going to write right here for reflexive is going to be the same for intensive. And I'll explain to you the difference in just a second. So for first person singular, myself, second person, yourself, third person, himself, herself, itself, and then plural first person. Remember, that means more than one, but I have to be included. Ourselves, second person, yourselves for plural, and then third person plural is themselves. And this is true for intensive too. So whatever you're writing right here, which is this in red, you're just going to copy the same exact thing for intensive. And I would like for you to actually write the words, not just draw an arrow. It's good for your brain to repeat some of this stuff. Okay, so you remember that intensive and reflexive are the same. Okay, so since I said they both end in self or selves, and since they're pretty much the same pronouns, what is the difference? Okay, they're used differently in the sentence. Reflexive are objects that refer back to the subject, and intensive emphasize another noun or pronoun in a sentence. And we're going to look at some examples in just a second. So get these definitions down. Make sure you're writing the reflexive definition in the reflexive part and the intensive definition in the intensive part. All right, so reflexive pronouns. The way I remember this is that reflexive pronouns reflect all the way back to the another pronoun or noun in the sentence. Okay, so the man kicked himself. Himself is the pronoun, and it's reflexive because it's reflecting all the way back to the man. She made herself coffee. The pronoun is herself, and it's reflexive because it's reflecting back to she over here. So you can see in this sentence, the reflexive pronoun is referring back to just a regular noun, okay? And here, the reflexive pronoun is referring back to a subject pronoun. And then the last sentence, you should address the letter to yourself. Yourself is the pronoun, and it's reflexive because it's reflecting all the way back to you, which in this case is a subject pronoun. Okay? So if it reflects back, it's reflexive. Okay, and these are just some of the examples we just did. It reflects the subject similar to a mirror's reflection. If you want to write that down, go for it. Okay, this is super, super, super important. Put a star by this when you write it down. Reflexive pronouns are important to the meaning of the sentence. Okay? You cannot write a sentence that makes sense without making sure that the reflexive pronoun deals with the meaning of the sentence. Okay? If I say the man kicked what? Himself. It changes the meaning of the sentence. If I just said the man kicked, you'd picture a man just like kicking in thin air. But if I say the man kicked himself, you get a totally different picture. It totally changes the meaning. So reflexive pronouns are important to the meaning of the sentence. Okay, here are a few more examples. Okay. So sentence 1 and sentence 2. Sentence 1 uses a reflexive pronoun. Sentence 2 does not. So number 1, I made myself some coffee. Okay. Sentence 1, she made coffee for only herself or himself. Okay. Sentence 2, she made coffee. I made some coffee. Okay. I made coffee for whom exactly? Okay. It could be for anybody. Okay. So do you see how these sentences are different? The myself makes a difference in the sentence. All right, so here are just some quick bullet points. Make sure that you have these in your notes. If you don't, or you need to tweak some things, that might be a good idea. Okay, but these are the important parts that you should definitely have down in your notes for reflexive. All right, moving on to intensive pronouns. Now, these are a little bit different, okay? And I'll show you a quick way to know the difference in just a second. Okay, so intensive pronouns are used to emphasize or intensify a noun or pronoun located anywhere in the sentence. Could be the subject, could be the object. Okay, so this is the quick way to identify intensive pronouns. Okay, if the pronoun is right next to what it is emphasizing, it is intensive. Okay, you will notice, going back to reflexive, that the reflexive pronouns are separated from what it is reflecting back to by at least one word. Okay, and you will notice with intensive that they are not separated. In this example, I made a sandwich for the president himself. Himself is right next to president. It's not reflecting all the way back. It's right next to it. The purpose of an intensive pronoun is to make it seem like it's a really big deal. So it's super intense. So intensive, intense, they're right next to each other. Okay, I would write that down. Intensive, intense, right next to each other. You're trying to like be dramatic, basically. My sister herself paid for the popcorn. Herself is not referring all the way back to sister. It's not separated. It's right next to sister. So it's super intense. So it is an intensive pronoun. Okay, and you will notice that it's being used in an object situation as well as subject situation. Okay, this is super, super important. It is the opposite of reflexive. Okay, put a star, star, star. Intensive pronouns may emphasize a noun or pronoun, but they are not necessary to the meaning of the sentence. They do not change the meaning. Reflexive does change the meaning. Intensive does not. Intensive is just making you seem more dramatic. Okay, so my sister herself paid for the popcorn. Remember, herself is right next to sister, so therefore this is an intensive pronoun. Okay, my sister herself paid for the popcorn. It has the same exact meaning if you just take that intensive pronoun out. My sister paid for the popcorn. Okay, not a difference in the sentence. Okay, so this is really good practice for what you're about to do for this assignment that goes along with these notes. Okay, for the following sentences, you're going to identify whether the pronoun is reflexive or intensive. Okay, so try to pause it and see if you can figure it out. Okay, so number 1, he likes himself too much. So himself is reflecting back to he. Look, it's separated by a word. Okay, so this one would be reflexive or intensive? Reflexive. Okay, number 2, they themselves will educate their children. Look, themselves is right next to they. Okay, it's super intense. They're right next to each other. So it would be what? Reflexive or intensive? The answer is intensive. Okay, you can also see if I take themselves out, will it still make sense? And does it change the meaning of the sentence? So they will educate their children. They themselves will educate their children. It means the same thing. So it's not necessary in the sentence. So it's intensive. Okay? Number 3, you yourself did it. Okay, look, I can take yourself out of the sentence. You did it. It means the same thing. And also, yourself is right next to you, so it's super intense. So it's intensive. Okay, and then the last one, she is now herself again. So herself is the pronoun. It's referring all the way back, reflecting all the way back to she. So it's reflexive. Check your answers. Make sure you understand why. Okay, and that is the end of intensive reflexive, and we're going to move on to pronoun and antecedent agreement. Okay, so at this point, you have subject filled out, object filled out, possessive filled out, and then you also have indefinite pronouns filled out, as well as reflexive and intensive. The only section of notes that you are missing are pronoun and antecedent agreement, so make sure you have this page out, turn to the middle of the back, and then you will notice that you are actually done with these charts. Okay, so for just the taking note purposes, you can put the gray charts to the side. And we're just going to talk a little bit about pronoun and antecedent agreement. Okay, so what is pronoun antecedent agreement? Okay, a pronoun points to a noun or another pronoun, and that's called the antecedent. Write that down. Antecedent, super important. Whatever the pronoun refers back to is called an antecedent. Okay, so in this situation, does that plant have mold on it? It is the pronoun. Okay, and it's being used as an object. It's an object pronoun. But what is it referring back to? Plant, right? So this is the antecedent, plant. Okay, whatever the pronoun refers back to is the antecedent. All right, a pronoun should agree in both number and gender with its antecedent. Write that down, that's super important. Okay, the pronoun has to agree with the antecedent. We've talked about this when we've talked about indefinite pronouns. Well, pretty much every pronoun we've talked about. But you have to make sure that the pronouns agree with each other, or the pronoun agrees with the original noun or antecedent. Okay, a pronoun that refers to one thing is singular. Notice that these are some singular examples. Okay, a word that refers to more than one is, of course, plural. Notice that these are the plural versions of the singular words they just gave you. All right, so here are the singular personal pronouns. Peel the onion before you chop it. Okay, the singular pronoun is it, and the singular antecedent is onion. Okay, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is so easy, yes and no. Okay, it can be, but sometimes there's some tricky ones. Okay, so notice that onion is singular, just one, and I'm chopping it, just one. Okay, here's some plural personal pronouns. Okay, you'll notice that they're subject, object, and possessive, just like the singular ones were. So the plural pronoun is them, and it's referring back to apples, which is plural. There's more than one. So that's the antecedent. Whatever the pronoun refers back to is antecedent. All right, so this is sometimes where kids get tricked up. So some singular pronouns indicate gender. Not all, but some. Masculine pronouns refer to males. So he, him, his, himself. Those are all masculine. Feminine refer to female. So I would write something about the pronoun gender and how these are the masculine examples. These are the feminine examples. Okay, and then neutral or neuter pronouns refer to places, things, ideas, and animals. So it's itself. They're neutral. All right, so make sure that a singular pronoun agrees with its antecedent in gender. If I say Roberto, talking about a boy, has studied, so he is ready, I have to make sure I'm using he because it's singular and because it's masculine, as I'm referring back to Roberto, who we talked about is one boy. Carla usually carries her own books. Her is the pronoun, possessive pronoun, okay? And it's referring back to Carla, who is just one female. So I have to make sure I'm using a singular female personal pronoun. In this case, a possessive personal. Okay, the canary is sitting on its perch. The neutral pronoun refers back to the canary. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, but it could be a boy, it could be a girl. Yes, you're totally right, and whichever it was would totally be acceptable, but often animals are referred to as it, which is kind of sad, I know. Okay, complete each sentence by providing a pronoun that agrees with its antecedent and identify the antecedent. Okay, so ants sometimes make blank home in your yard. Their home in your yard. Okay, now there refers back to what? Ants, right? So ants is the antecedent. Okay, go ahead and press pause. Try the last four just in your head really quickly just to check yourself. You don't have to write it down. Just try to do it in your head. So press pause. Okay, number 2, here are the answers. That plant needs water or blank will die. You would say it because we don't know if the plant is a boy or a girl, right? And it is singular, okay? So it refers back to plant, and plant is the antecedent. Number 3, Jerry lent blank bike to Paul. I figured it might be easier if I write this down. Okay, Jerry lent blank bike to Paul. Jerry is a boy, okay, and he's lending his bike to Paul. Okay, his is the pronoun, and it's referring back to Jerry. Jerry would be the antecedent. Sorry, I just want to make sure you guys get this there. It's hard to write without my tablet. Okay, there refers back to ants, ants is the antecedent. Okay, number 4. The captains of the team accepted blank award. So notice, I've got to talk about the captains. Captains is plural. And I don't know if it's a bunch of boys. I don't know if it's a bunch of girls. So I'm going to say there. Okay, there's the pronoun I would use. And it refers back to captains. So captains is the antecedent. Number 5, my sister is smart and blank is also funny. Since I'm talking about my sister, which is singular and feminine, I have to use she. Okay, so she's the pronoun. It refers back to sister, which is the antecedent. Alrighty. Okay. Alright, so this is where I think that most kids mess up. And we've talked about this when we've been talking about indefinite pronouns. So indefinite pronouns refer to a person, place, or thing whose identity is unknown. That is hopefully reveal. Okay, you don't need to write down the definition of indefinite pronouns because you already have it down, hopefully. So some indefinite pronouns are singular, some are plural. Remember this from when we did indefinite. Okay, some may be either singular or plural, depending on how they are used. Miss Ayler calls those oh crud, which I like. I think that's clever. Oh crud pronouns, because we have to really pay attention and make sure if they're being used as singular or plural. Okay, the following indefinite pronouns are singular, which this is all review, so I don't want to spend a huge amount of time. Okay, so singular indefinite pronouns, there's a giant list. Hopefully you can see on your notes that you have some of those written down in your list as well. Okay, each of the cars is missing one of its hubcaps. So we're talking about singular here, each. Okay, so I need to use a singular pronoun. Okay, one of the ladies left her notebook here. One is singular, so I have to make sure I use a singular pronoun. Someone on the boys' teams forgot his backpack. Remember one body thing rule. If it ends in one body or thing, which someone does, It is singular, so someone on the boys' team forgot his backpack, not their backpack, even though that's how a lot of people speak. Okay? Someone is singular, so I have to use a singular pronoun to refer back to the singular antecedent. All right. So, ways to fix problems in agreement. And these are the kinds of things that you'll see on the milestones. It'll give you some examples that may not be correct, and then maybe you will have to fix it yourself or things like that, perhaps. Okay, so make sure you understand how to fix these issues. So when you don't know the gender of the subject, or when the subject includes both males and females, you can use both the masculine and the feminine pronouns connected by or. So no one offered his or her help. We've talked about this before. Everybody in the play studied his or her lines. So everybody and no one, these are both singular. And instead of saying their, because that would be incorrect, or maybe we don't know if the whole group was male or if the whole group was female, we can say his or her. That's the correct way. Alright, so here is the list of the plural indefinite pronouns. Both of the soldiers respect their captain. Notice both is plural and their is plural as well. Few of the dogs obeyed their owners. Few is plural and their owners is as well. If several are ready, serve them. Them is the plural pronoun referring back to the plural indefinite pronoun. Alright, these are the oh crud ones that could be singular or plural, so we just have to make sure we're understanding the context. Okay, so in this situation, we're going to talk about some for the indefinite pronoun. So some of the music, and you have to be really careful and see what some of it's referring to, so you can choose to use a singular or plural. Some of the music is good. Since music is a singular word, I have to use it to refer back to music and some. Okay, some of the songs are new. Notice songs is plural, even though I'm using some again. So here it was singular. Here it is plural. Okay, so I have to say them, referring back to songs and some. Alright, so let's practice a couple of these. These are some ones that you might see on the milestones where it'll say, most of the following sentences contain pronouns that do not agree with their antecedents. If a pronoun does not agree with its antecedent, provide the correct pronoun. If the sentence is already correct, label it correct. Okay, so several of the babies had special blankets with it. So several is plural. Babies I can also see as plural. So does it make sense here? No. So let's fix that to them. Okay, the next one. It says them. I've read most of the book and I have enjoyed it. I've read most of the book and I have enjoyed it. So it is referring back to what here? Book. Book is singular. It is singular. So this one is correct. Alright, number 3. Only one of the girls had finished their homework. So here you think, oh, girls is plural. Right, but it's only one of the girls. So one is singular. Therefore, I need to use what here? Not there. It has to be her. And I know it has to be her because I'm talking about a singular female because it specifically says girls. Okay. Number 4, most of the players accepted his awards in person. Most is the pronoun. And look, I can see that it's talking about plural because it's talking about players. So his cannot be correct because that was only referred to one. So I have to say there. Most of the players accepted their awards in person. Okay, and the last one. Someone left their backpack on the bus. That is not correct because someone is a singular word because it ends in one body or thing. Remember, one body thing, it is always going to be singular. Okay, so instead of saying there, I need to say his or her because I don't know if it's a boy, I don't know if it's a girl, so I need to say his or her. His or her. Okay, I'm really sorry, that's really hard to write. Okay, so this kind of gets tricky here, but make sure you know this because this will be on your test. You will see this on your test. Okay? If the if a singular, use a singular pronoun to refer to two or more singular antecedents joined by or nor. So you will see here, Ralph or Carlos. Okay, you have to use a singular word because both of them are not going to do it. Only one, okay, will display his paintings. So you cannot say Ralph or Carlos will display their paintings because no, only one of them, right? That's what or means, just one. Okay, this gets tricky. Also, the opposite of or is neither nor. So if you say neither Elia, I don't know what that says, nor Mary brought her jacket, you can't say neither Elia nor Mary brought their jacket because that doesn't make sense. The jacket doesn't belong to both of them. It's her jacket because these words, nor and neither, mean that only one of them, okay, it has to be singular. Alright, on the other hand, okay, so here we go. If it's joined by and, then it is plural. Okay, so or singular and plural. So Tyrone and James are artists. They draw well. Both of them draw well. Okay, and that's what and means. It's joining two things together, so it has to be plural. So make sure you use a plural pronoun to refer back to two or more antecedents that are joined by and. Okay, both Max and Helen, so both Max and Helen delivered their speeches. There's plural, referring back to a plural group of antecedents. Alright, so this is some good practice as well. We're almost done. Y'all are doing such a good job. Most of the following sentences contain pronouns that do not agree with their antecedents. If a pronoun does not agree with its antecedent, provide the correct pronoun. If the sentence is already correct, label it correct. So both Rick and Ned were pleased with their test results. So look, they're joined by and this gives us a great clue, both, okay, which means it has to be plural, which there is plural, so this one is correct. Okay, if you need to pause it to see if you can do it on your own, it's a great idea, go ahead and pause it. Number 2, can even a princess or a queen have their every wish? So look, or, that means it's singular, so this can't be right. And since I know a princess is a girl and a queen is a girl, I have to say her, singular, female. Alright, number 3. If you get a red rose or a lily, or, it will look nice here. Okay, and then look, it. So that is singular, right? Or has to be singular. It is singular, so that one is correct. Number 4, my brother and, so this has to be plural because we're talking about more than one. My brother and my sister lent me her favorite videos. Instead of saying her, because that's just singular female, I'm going to say the plural that includes male and female, which is their. Alright, we're almost done. Number 5, 2 cars and 1 truck had its lights on. So look, 2 cars and 1 truck, we already know that's 3, but look, it's joined by and, which means we have to use a plural pronoun to refer back to this little area. Okay? So its is not plural, so I need to say their lights on to make it plural. Alright, check your answers, make sure you understand this. Okay, and then I want you guys to press pause, and if you'd like, you can talk with a friend and see if you guys can get these together. Press pause. Okay, so hopefully you pressed pause because here are the answers. And if you need to press pause to make sure you got the correct ones, that would be awesome. I circled the keywords here so that you would know why I chose the answers I chose. Okay, and we are done. So now it is time to first get the reflexive and intensive handout from your teacher with the intensive and reflexive notes that we've already done. And then once you've completed that and handed it back to your teacher, you will take the pronoun checkpoint. And if you do not finish either of these two things in class today, they are homework. We have to have the checkpoint completed before tomorrow so that we can know your groups for the amazing race.